Today we have on the Bliss Republic podcast with us Garrain Jones. Garrain Jones is one of America's top 25 personal development coaches. He is an international speaker, podcaster, and best-selling author of Change Your Mindset, Change Your Life. His remarkable journey from a $200,000 debt and living in his car to becoming a millionaire exemplifies perseverance and resilience. At the heart of Garrain's philosophy is the belief in unlocking our true potential to access endless possibilities for abundance and personal transformation. His teachings empower individuals to break free from limitations and embrace lives filled with purpose and joy. Garrain's impact resonates worldwide, inspiring countless people to realize their potential and pursue transformative growth through creativity. So welcome to the Bliss Republic podcast today.
Hi, friend.
Hi. Oh, so good to see you. I would actually like to start off with a little bit of a personal acknowledgement. Garrain, I would like to personally thank you and acknowledge you for something very particular that I don't see very often in men these days, and that is mercy. We already spoke for an hour in May to record a podcast, and I entirely dropped the ball. Anything that could go wrong went wrong. And you showed mercy and amidst all my chaos and gave me another chance to record today. So thank you so much.
You are so welcome. I've been there before and they didn't have mercy and I didn't like the way they felt. So it just allows me to have a greater depth of patience, empathy, and compassion for the human experience as it continues to adjust itself through us.
Yeah, thank you. And I think even by exemplifying that, it healed a part in me because we don't want to go around with these negative experiences of like, even if we cause them ourselves, but being shown mercy, I think it's really powerful. So thank you.
You're so
And
more than welcome.
thank you. And then there's another big update. Welcome to your son as well. Chief has finally made it across.
Yes. So excited. Big news. Boy in the family, young man, Chieftain Wolf Jones, my son. There's a level of healing that I never knew even existed until I looked into his eyes. I have two daughters, and it's not
Yeah.
the same. It's like when I look
Mm.
into his eyes, I experience the collection of every man who has ever existed in our lineage. And
Wow.
so just by looking into Chief's eyes, I'm realizing that my father was a broken man looking to my eyes when I was a little baby, transmuting brokenness. But I'm not a
Wow.
broken man. So when I look into Chief's eyes, I imagine myself being the newborn baby version of him and my adult self being my dad. And it's healing where that was even transmitted to me just by looking into his eyes and all of the lineages of man. Because the way that I choose to see Chief, he's the leader of our lineage.
Yeah. So did you feel that before? Because obviously I noticed you chose his name before he was born.
Oh, he chose his name. His name, he came into a meditation for my wife as a big
Oh,
white wolf and said, "My name is Chieftain Wolf Jones. I am your son." And my wife came out of her meditation, called me in tears. She was like, "Baby, we're going to have a son, Chieftain Wolf Jones." I was like, "Oh my goodness, I love that." So he visited her in her meditation. So we
that's
weren't just like, let's look for names. I think it's Chief. It's like, no, it was clear that he chose his name and brought that to us.
what a gift. What a gift. So you said it's very different from raising a daughter. So you have a beautiful daughter, Soul, as well,
Yeah. And a
and
daughter named, and a 22-year-old named Kylia.
and a 22-year-old named Kalia. So you have two daughters and one son.
Yep.
And in raising the daughters versus the son, what are the differences?
I mean, one is easy. For Kylia and Soul, I'm operating as the most powerful representation of who she will marry one day. And for Chief, I'm operating as the most powerful representation of whose place he will take one day. So it's like a cub that needs a model. And then I literally get to train my replacement, which will eventually succeed me one day. And I will go anywhere and do anything in my power so that he's a strong representation of a divine masculine man, which is, it's very rare out there. There's people who say it, but they don't live by it from a devotional standpoint. And so to be able to gift that launching pad to my son and know without a shadow of a doubt, this is what I'm here to bring to him. That makes me feel good about the future change of the world because that's not a slight job. And so I don't take it casually. So yeah, that's the difference. I'm training my replacement as opposed of being the highest representation because most of the time women model the men that they date off of things that remind them of their father, whether they're conscious or unconscious of it. They end up dating a different variation of their father over and over and over and over and over. You date your father's wounds. You date your father's the way he looked in your eyes and all, because that was the first man that most of the time first man that imprinted on you, and then it's like, oh, I like this, I don't like this, but you crave what you like and don't like.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm very grateful that I have a very good connection with my father, and he's definitely a role model as well, leading
Yeah.
through difficult times. But I know there are many, many women in particular who may not be that blessed of having the most healthy relationship with.
Just so you know, that's rare because 94% of my clientele is women. So I hear their stories all the time and I work with them with these particular stories.
Yeah. Yeah. So what does it take for them to get out of that cycle?
One, there's several things. There's reparenting, and that's learning how to develop a different relationship with the masculine inside of yourself. So a lot of times you have these women that try to act like men, like straight up, and especially in the workplace.
Yeah.
Like I'm a boss babe and I'm this, and but it's the mannerisms of a man because women had to be forced. They literally, y'all had to be forced to grow up in a man's world. So naturally, the domestication is, well, I'm going to be the best in all of those traits. That's why, like my wife, she was that, and her hair would fall out, and she'd stress out, all this other stuff. And then the moment that she started tapping into her feminine essence and stopped trying to do so much and started really tapping into her beingness. We made more money. Like I got more opportunities. So the true power of the woman isn't in anything that she's doing. It's in her essence, and through her essence is the whispers of intuition, is this energetic field that opens up. But if you're in the doing, you don't have access to the portal of that massive, the power of the ocean energetic field. So one is to really look at the masculine aspect of yourself, and if it is doing, you're 100% you're out of your feminine essence. So you're like basically out of the alignment. It's like a bird trying to be an alligator. So finding ways to tap back into your feminine essence, and then once you encounter a safe masculine man, this is why a lot of women come to my programs. They'll come, and just by being in the presence of a masculine man who doesn't want anything from them, they get another example, which then in turn starts to shape a whole new reality inside of the masculine side of them. So finding and learning from the safe masculine, all of a sudden starts shifting the masculine side of them. So when those two start toggling simultaneously, you'll start to notice the shift inside of that woman. This is what I coach women on all day long. So I've seen it, the magic that happens.
And I've seen you as well speak about when you first met Blair, your wife. She wasn't acting as a girl. Like you could see the woman in her. What did that mean to you? And can you expand a bit on that?
Yeah, you think about it like little kids. Oh, mommy, mommy, can you do this for me, mommy? And there's just all these like little kids, little boys and little girls. Little boys act the same and little girls act the same. Oh, you hit me. And it's just like there's no roles and responsibilities. And it's just kind of like loosey goosey. And there's no kind of aim or direction, kind of just existing in life and eating what your parents feed you. And, so there's like an immaturity to a little kid. Most men and women have never actually grown up. In age, they have. But they're still operating off of the same way they used to act when they were 7 years old, with a couple of more disciplines. When I met Blair, she was already a woman that had graduated from like little girl that come save me and protect me and which is it's a beautiful quality to have. But if you only rely on that quality, you know what I mean? It's like you have no aim and you have no vision for your life other than getting a man or something like it's little girls act like that. Little boys act like that too. I want my mommy to take care of me. And so with Blair, she had a nurturing quality. And she wasn't even trying to have babies. But the way that she would take care of her friends and like really hear what you're saying, but also be able to connect with what was inside of your soul. I was like, damn, I've never had anybody like care for me as a friend like that. She just would nurture, but also she was great at working hard, but she also was like, I don't I don't want to work like this forever. And so she was clear on her goals and a vision. She didn't lack for work. She wasn't waiting for somebody to take care of her. She had already went through that phase. She could take care of herself. And now it's just about there was a partnership. Like we both brought something to the table, not 50-50. We both were bringing 100 and 100 because that's why we don't call each other better halves. She's not a half a person and neither am I. Two halves make a zero, but two wholes make infinity. And so we were bringing both of our wholes to the relationship, and she was responsible. She did what she said she was going to do. She could already build a life on her own, but knows that she didn't want to. And she had a nurturing quality. She's intimate and just not waiting for somebody to like feed her. Like she could do it, but she'd rather collaborate. And I was like, wow, I rarely meet women like this. And so it was just beautiful. I was like, I can see you as being my wife. Like I didn't meet a little girl trying to get discovered to then I wanted to make a girlfriend to then see if there's enough time and see if there's anybody else that comes around. Like I didn't meet a little girl. I met a wife. She had all these qualities that I was like, clearly. And the two of the main is I could see her in the future, long term, me growing with her, and I could see her as the mother of our children. If I couldn't see you, if a man can't see a woman being the mother of their children because she doesn't display the qualities, it's hard to it's hard to be wife material. Yeah, you can get wifed up, but you're gonna get wifed up for some things that are not connected to family.
That brings me to two questions. So you speak a lot about people wearing a mask, and that's exactly, I guess, what women try to do. Like when they're not at that point of taking 100% responsibility for their lives and their feelings, then what we do is wear a mask and we try on different personas until we eventually figure out this isn't working, right? How hard is it to heal when you don't lay down your mask?
Well, life is hard in general. Healing is hard in general. However, living a whole life and before your deathbed, everything that you could have created, the love that you could have had, the book you could have written, is staring at you right before and said only you could have brought us to life, but you were so selfish. That's a different kind of hard. So I would rather take the hard that allows me to have a calmness in my nervous system. And I'd say it's really important to do the healing work because you can't change what you're not aware of. And the healing work allows you to gain clarity on why you get so angry. It's not the fact that he took the last Snicker, it's the fact that he took the last Snicker that brought up a trigger inside of you from when your older brother who used to hit you took the Snicker and then ate it and then spit it out in your face, and you were so angry and you never processed those emotions that anybody that does anything remotely close to that awakens that dragon that has never been dealt with. So your kids got to pay the price, work has to pay the price, intimacy has to pay the price. That's why it's so important, because if you're not aware of where the anger could arise from or the triggers or the rage or anything, or not even close, you just leave it in the back, well, your future will become a recreation of your past. And that's why it's important if you want to evolve in the future.
So in your life, you've done many times 180 entirely, have turned your life upside down. And I can't even tell how inspired I am by how you've gotten to get back up on your feet so many times. How important is it to be surrounded by the right people and to be in the right environment to pull off something like that?
Well, I'll put it to you this way. If you were born, let's see, in a Spanish speaking country, all you're going to know is what the people around you are saying and speaking, their energy, how they treat other people. But you just happen to be an American. But because of the environment that you're in, you speak the language that they speak. So even if you're like literally American on your birth certificate, but you were some type of dual citizenship and there's like but Spanish speaking country, or if you were born in America, then you move to Spain and you stay there. Because of that community, it will shape the way you think, the way you speak, the way you act, how you treat people, how you see people. And so community is so important because there's language, there's energy, frequency, vibration, the way speak, body language, how they speak, what books they're reading. It's a form of language. And when you immerse yourself in the community, you become the sum total of the people that you surround yourself with the most. Community has been one of the biggest routes that has supported me in my whole life success because I found a health driven community that were empowering each other, goals and dreams. They were acting on them. They were living with integrity. They studied leadership books. I naturally did what they did. So naturally, my results, they didn't have to be the same results, but it made sense according to the people that I was hanging out with the most. This is why I create my retreats. It's not because I'm charging you $4,000 to attend a retreat. That's the buy-in for 87 people that are positive, goal driven, that you have the ability to, and this is not even including the stuff that I'm teaching at the retreat. You have the ability, because every person is like its own little world. You have like 87 planets that you can learn from and grow with, and everything that can, anything that you're doing instantly amplifies in the right community. That's how important it is. I created a business around it.
You said something very particular. You said it matters what language they speak and the vibration they bring to the table.
Yeah.
Why does that matter?
You can be in a room full of people who don't like you. Nobody's talking. And you can feel it. You're like, oh my God, I got to get out of here. This doesn't feel good. Boom, you're out. And you can be in a room full of people who love you. Nobody's talking. And you can feel it, which means that there's an energy that is present that supersedes actual given human language. In the Bible, it says, in the beginning there was the word, but the Greek meaning for the word is sound and vibration. So when you actually focus on a higher vibration, you become it. Legit, you become it. If you hang out with people who are negative and complaining and gossiping and just tearing people down all the time, your life will manifest the energy that you continuously choose to surround yourself around. There's no way, you can't hide from that. So it's really important because that's what energy does. And most people don't understand how actual energy works. Magically, you feel better than you ever felt. Your health results are amazing. And you're just like, oh my God, I'm amazing. Wow, I got all these new ideas. Wow, this random check came out of nowhere. Wow, wow, wow. No, it's connected to the energy. It's like having a giant snow globe over your life and activating it and having all these particles go down. When the energy is negative, that's like having the snow globe and nothing's happening.
That's probably the best way I ever heard someone explain it. So thank you. And also very beautiful.
Shaken snow globe or
I know.
stale snow globe?
Language. I want to dive a bit into that as well. So the words we surround ourselves with become the house we live in, which is probably one of my favorite quotes. How do you manage language at home?
You know what? My wife and I were always reading. And again, you become who you hang out with. Who you hang out with is not just the people that come over day in and day out or your friends. Who you hang out with is what you're watching on TV, is what you're listening to, is what you're reading. And if you can see how you listen to like a song over and over and over and over and over, all of a sudden you can't stop singing the song. You weren't even trying to memorize the words, but you kept hearing it. So obviously something else has memory. That's called your subconscious mind. And so you keep feeding it and feeding it and feeding it. Boom. There starts it's the record player over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. And so why language is so important? Because if you have the right combination of language that harnesses the right vibration and you allow those words to come out of your mouth that come from your heart, things can start to come in alignment because what you're saying, what you're feeling, what you're thinking are connected. I remember being 13 years old and I wasn't sick, but I wanted to stay home from school and pretend like I was sick. And I was like, Mom, I'm sick. Mom, and I was pretending like I was sick all day. By the end of the day, I had 103 fever and I was throwing up. And that was long before I knew what manifesting your reality was. I just remember this very moment. It's like every time I do this, this thing happens. That was one day. Now imagine someone who goes their whole life and says, I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy. I'm always late. I'm slow. I'm stupid. I'm fat. I'm dumb. I'm ugly. He's never going to like me. I'm never going to make it. This is what goes on in our crazy mind. Like the broken record all day long.
In a relationship where words have a massive impact, how important is it to have difficult conversations?
Oh, it's very important. If you are adverse to difficult conversation, you're never going to evolve into something meaningful. Because you got to understand, you're dealing with a whole human that you think you know, but you know nothing about when they were 3, 4, 5, 6, when they were born, and the trauma that came with those crazy ass lights in the hospital. If you were born in the hospital, like anytime something's ever happened, we have over 55,000 thoughts a day. And that's just in one day. So imagine a whole life. So somebody you think you know, you actually don't really know. You know the pattern that you keep seeing, that you choose to see. You know the pattern. You don't know somebody until they're dead and they're gone. And that's when they're dead and they're gone. And so it's important to have these conversations when tempers flare, because it's also an opportunity for you to go in each other's worlds and know certain even deeper parts. I call it the other side of the moon. It's still the moon though. So for me and my wife, we have these tough conversations. They were difficult at first, but we are so committed to growth. We get a relationship coach and we start getting like support like in every area of our life. Why not our marriage? You know what I'm saying? And so having support and having us to be able to hear what they're actually saying underneath the rage or the sadness and things has been so beautiful for our marriage. If we did not do personal growth, we would not be together right now. Not even close.
What was the time where you thought, all right, we are going to get a coach and get some help? Where the challenges where you thought that,
When we started,
yeah, right.
we literally started when I knew she was going to be my wife. We got somebody right away. But that's what I do in business. I do that in business. I do that in learning facilitation. If I want to learn something I've never learned before, I get somebody who's done what I've never done before to help support. So I already had data in my life that when you have somebody in your life that can pull out of you what you can't pull out of yourself, you compress time frames. So when we were boyfriend and girlfriend, we had a relationship coach. People get it. People do those type of things when they have issues. We were like, we're going to do them now so that if we ever have issues, we have a plan. And you can't grow what you don't measure. So if you're like measuring the arguments because you don't have the skill set to measure all the things in between, you're going to grow what arguments turn into. Break up. Break down. This is some world class stuff right here.
Yeah, it's so true. And I keep coming back to the reference of tending to a garden that you want to both grow together.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
there is so much, I guess, for both sides to look into. Like as a woman being on that journey, I can always go back to softening like a flower and being in that sort of space. What does it mean when you take on that perspective of tending a garden for a man? What does that mean?
Well, I didn't know this until I started landscaping my house. When I'd see the grass that I thought was great green grass, when I hired a landscaper, they were like, that's not grass. I'm like, what do you mean? It's all green. He said, did you plant those clovers? I said, no. He said, he went underneath the clovers. He said, this is the grass. Those clovers are an invasive species that have come and overtake this whole part. So you actually got to get all new grass. I'm like, oh my goodness. I've had friends in my life that pose as friends. Meanwhile, they're an invasive species that are sucking your soul dry. And so once I started looking at the land as the land of the human, it really started having me see how the trees and the roots and the vines that look so beautiful, but they just choked and killed three other trees. And so I was like, wait a second, this is a growing mechanism. And so by understanding the garden and the land that you live on, you know what weeds look like, you know how to take care of them, you know about the seasons, you know when to pull the flowers in and out. That's your woman. That's literally your wife. That's literally protecting and providing and creating a family. You know what weeds are like. The weeds are certain people that aren't vibrationally fit to be inside of the auric field of your family. And so if you say yes, oh, it's okay. All right, cool. Because weeds don't need anything to grow but time. When it overtakes the garden, that was on you because you weren't tending to the garden. All of this, my whole family is a garden. And what kind of fruit do you want to grow? Well, guess what? You can't grow fruit on a tree where you didn't plant the seeds or take care of the land.
That is very beautiful. Would say that even down to the very ancestors of ours, there is the soil, right? The soil that is feeding everything. So it's like, what are the nutrients in there? What is the water that is coming in? So it's a whole ecosystem in itself
Whole
working.
ecosystem.
Yeah.
Like I didn't even get to the ancestral part because most people are stuck in the 3D on, oh my God, the fucking traffic. I can't believe it's so cold outside. Wow. Yeah, it's been 3 days of hot. I'm like, so we just go stay right here on this playing field right here.
But then again, I think it wouldn't be so special if it was for everyone. Like if everyone was then in that perspective and in that vision and seeing
Yeah,
through it all, then it wouldn't be perhaps anything that we would pay attention to.
that's
And
what makes this human experience so beautiful because there's 8.2 billion perspectives. It's like this. What do you see?
what I see, a cable.
Okay? You didn't say you see my red necklace. You didn't say you see my hair. You didn't say you see the lights in the background, the turquoise, the shiplap, the desk in the back with all the stuff. You didn't say you see. So that means you can look at one same direction, see something different than somebody else, and there's many things that you can see. And whatever you see is what shapes your world.
And then also the conditioning behind it, right?
Yep. I mean
Yeah.
that's a whole nother can of worms.
So I would like to ask a little bit about your children and your kids and the parenting. Do you guys have roles defined at home, and how do you work the ecosystem like within your home? How do you set up? Do you have a certain system set up, a certain hierarchy set up? Like who makes the
Yeah, well, one,
decisions?
that we live our life by divine order. Divine order is God first, family second, everything else third. Now, inside of family, our kids don't come first. We come first. Because when they graduate, if we have given all of ourselves to them and left ourselves out when they graduate, we won't have nothing here. So we got to make sure here is always taken care of. That's Blair and Garrain. We call ourselves Blairin. Now, some people are like, oh my goodness, why don't you put your kids first? There's no way that we would have our kids see us put ourselves last so they can be trained on how to put themselves last. Because people don't do what you say, they do what they see. So when they see us waking up, working out, having healthy smoothies, having healthy resolve in conflict, and things like that. And we put them on the table so they can see us having the argument and saying, hey, it's not your fault. Mommy and daddy's just learning how to communicate and know each other deeper. And that translates right into how they have relationships with kids, even if they're 2 and 3 years old. Like, we've got to put ourselves first so that our kids can benefit from our overflow. So the scope, God, family, Herbalife, but inside of family dynamics, it's us, then the kids. So that we're the most powerful representations that are modeling the environment that they get to grow up in.
I think that is so important because I see many, many families really putting their kids first. And especially to begin with, they have a relationship that doesn't function. And then they say, we're going to heal the relationship and have kids. And that's already such a recipe for breakdown because it's not built in the right order, in the right frequency as well. And I've always been very mindful of making myself decisions like that because I pay a lot of attention to this order. And maybe that's also got to do with the impact and the influence by my own father, because he's such a very structured person. I feel very good about that. I feel it's a home within myself where I always come back to and say, if anything is out of order, if anything is not feeling right, it's always the same. It always comes back to because it's built in the wrong way. It's like making a cake, right? If you put the ingredients in the wrong order, you may not get a good cake. You may get bread, or I don't know.
Absolutely. Listen, you can have a plant. If you take this one plant and you eat the plant, it will kill you within 5 minutes. But if you have that same plant and then you take this one other plant, put it with it, it will heal your body. That's the difference between 1 and 2 ingredients.
Yeah, that's exactly that. This speaks for everything, right? It speaks for the relationships we have. It speaks for the way we do our job. It speaks for how we treat and organize our home, how we have our finances in order. And it was a big change this year, getting out of van life to now be sitting here recording with you, which is such an honor, but a big shift in mindset. And I know you've been through that shift in mindset many, many times to get to the other side of things. Do you have any methods or anything in particular that you utilize for yourself to have a self check-in? Are my thoughts correct? Is my mindset in order?
I'm always listening to personal development, like always. I have check ins, I have accountability groups that I'm a part of. Me and my wife, we have this weekly love meeting that we do where we just catch up from the week prior, where we talk about sex, where we talk about the relationship, where we talk about is there anything left unsaid? Do we need support with anything? Where we acknowledge each other, where we talk about date night and things of that nature. And it's just like, it's like you go to church once a week to recharge. Like, this is like church for our relationship.
That's such a good idea. So you plan the week and you have a day where
No,
you
the,
speak
the
about
week is planned.
the week is planned.
Oh, yeah.
And then you speak about what are we doing for date night?
Yeah. Do we need to change it? And the thing about it is, when we don't do it, we can feel the difference in our relationship. When we do it, there's like this effortlessness that happens.
That's awesome. When you first met Blair, how did you guys exactly meet?
Well, we met at a seminar, but I don't remember meeting her. She remembers meeting me, and she said I was an asshole. She was my speaker liaison, and I didn't quite remember. And I saw this picture. I was like, I remember this day, but I don't like remember you. But we actually like officially met at a emotional intelligence course. where we were both at the bottleneck of transformation. So I was a completely different person. She was a completely different person. And through that, wow, that is a beautiful woman. I definitely remember you.
What was the seminar about? Do you remember?
Basically, uncovering your blocks and the type of stuff that I teach. Is like uncovering your blocks, seeing what's there, developing the kind of language so that you can speak to them, and then being able to work on that with other people and just learn about like the stuff that you try to avoid in life and bring it to the forefront and then have accountability to support you in going to the next level of your life.
When it comes to accountability, do you recommend people to have people in their lives to hold them accountable? Is that
Absolutely. When you leave humans to their own merit, humans by nature are lazy. They do way less than they would normally do with one good friend that has encouragement in their life. They're like, man, that's why like you go to the gym, you like have a little bit more pump up, but then when you try to do it by yourself, it's like, and pick up my phone and I can have a little, but it's not the same because it's the shared energy of something happens in community. So I think it is very important that people have accountability in their life.
is that the reason why all of your workshops are mainly focused on community and community
Absolutely.
based?
Because it's me trying to say, all this shit that y'all doing by yourself, you taking the long route. But when you can come in the community, oh my goodness, positive, goal driven, people building you up, people cheering you on. When you feel down and before you used to do drugs, take alcohol, watch porn, and do all these other unhealthy outlets, all of a sudden you can phone a friend that says, girl, I got you. You got this. And they hop on the phone. Like when a human has access to that, they have access to that's the real gold. People who actually care about you in your life.
So in your workshops, how do people reconnect to themselves through play and creativity?
Shoot, because we be playing. Like it's part of the program. So think about it. You can have a breakup. Then all of a sudden you go dancing. And all of a sudden there's a loss of time. Then all of a sudden your favorite song comes on. And then all of a sudden you leave the moment because you're somewhere else. Play the radio around a bunch of 4-year-olds. Watch what happens. It's a natural part of humans. It's literally natural. So when you curate an environment that is intentional on loving the little kid inside of the adult and creating a safe space where they feel seen, heard, acknowledged, the level of magic that can come through a human vessel, it's it taps into things that we in the human realm only dream about. But like when it comes from the same place that dreams come from, maybe there's a lot more magic there. I just found a really unique way to do it. And man, the results, the level of healing, the transformation, the personal growth, the marriages that were on the rocks all of a sudden amplified. Now there's some people who separate. They're like, oh my God, it's because of your retreat that broke up my marriage. No, y'all been lying in a marriage for 5 years and it actually exposed the truth that you weren't willing to like look at until you were around truth and you're like, oh my God. So it's a vibrationally true place. I can't tell you what truth is, but I can tell you that there's head truth, truth that's full of lies, and then there's vibrational truth, which is found in the body. And that's where all the inherent wisdom is. So I speak vibrational truth. and it goes directly to the body.
And when you're in vibrational truth and you just know something is right and something is wrong, do you believe that there's a bigger field of consciousness that when we're tapped into that, we can immediately spot what's right and wrong?
Well, right and wrong, I'm very indifferent about those words. I don't really believe in right and wrong, but I do believe in new levels of awareness. And most people are operating the best way they know how. When I used to sleep around with all those women, that was literally the best way I knew how to connect. I didn't know. I didn't know if a beautiful woman would look at me, they're like, oh my God, she likes me. I want to have sex with her. I had no idea because that's the way I was trained. I didn't know that you could transmute that energy and turn it into something that is so much way more magical than the flesh of the human. And so once I knew, I was like, oh, I have an option. I didn't know I had an option. So I give people the benefit of the doubt. I think people are doing the best they can with what they know. And I can't assume everybody knows what I know. And that frees me from all of this political stuff. It frees me from all of this propaganda. It frees me from the black and white thing and the tran and non-tran and the vax and non-vax and the way they try to spin us off and make us fight each other for our beliefs. I'm actually free from all of that because that game is not a game I play because I'm not playing a game called I win, you lose, or you lose, I win. That's an outdated system. Because if it's not a win for you, a win for me, and a win for the world, I don't want to have anything to do with it. So that frees me from all of these other little games that literally haven't changed.
What is it that you know?
I know that I don't know anything. And the biggest thing that I know is there is an infinite knowing that's far beyond my human knowing. So when I unknow my human knowing and I tap into the infinite knowing, I become one of everything. And when I become one of everything, I get to have relatability to everything. So that doesn't make me separate from anything. That's one thing I know.
Thank you for sharing. All right, I want to come to our final question that I get to ask everyone.
I've never said what I just said just now. That was really cool.
Amazing. Well, there's always a first time, I guess. So we learn. I just learned a whole lot from you. So I really appreciate your openness. And I want to come to the final question. What is the most important thing that you have learned about love in your life?
That no one owes it to you. No one owes you love. And that people can only love you to the extent at which you love yourself. So everything you want out there is directly correlated to everything you're not giving to yourself in here. They're one and the same.
Very, very true. Garrain, it's been an absolute pleasure and honor having you on the podcast. I really appreciate you.
Thank
I
you so much.
extend the appreciation to your family who's holding space for you right now so we can do this podcast.
Yeah.
I want to say welcome to the world for your little son, Chief.
Thank you so much.
Also, extended greetings to both of your daughters. I appreciate you and thank you.
Thank you so much, my friend, and thank you for your brave and beautiful questions. And may this podcast, the energy from this podcast be a seed that plants into the universe and it turns into an entire forest that brings about 10x effortlessly in your life. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Garrain.
Have a good night.
And you. Thank you.
All right. Peace.